Or am I going to be the one that gets trapped in the gas because I waited too long? And that's essentially kind of like what we've gone for with that space. Backing up a little bit to talk a bit about how we got there was a lot of iterations involved with that work. We started with it being this really glass-looking lab, something futuristic, very apex looking, but didn't necessarily fit Caustic in that way. And then from there we went full tilt and went super dirty and factory looking, which kind of really felt like Caustic, but maybe went a bit too far in that direction. So in the end, we kind of settled on something that was in between. And I think everybody has really commented about how much they really feel like it fits Caustic, it fits the world. Coming back to where we've put this on the map. So Bilal kind of spilled it out already, where we've come down all the way down the river. We're at the south side of the map now. And the south just made sense for balancing out our update. In 8.0, we went really heavy on the north side with the crash ship and spotted lakes, and we needed a way to kind of balance that out. So we had played around with several locations around in the south there with where it could fit. And then ultimately we ended up at water treatment. So water treatment becomes Caustic treatment now, and this is where the facility lives. And it really brings a lot of balance to the update, not only in terms of what we've updated on the map, but also with loot and the way that loot gets dispersed. The quality stuff is much higher there now in that area. In the end, the toxins, Caustic, the look, the whole package has really come together, and we think players are really going to like what we've done with the space.
Water treatment, I think, actually makes a whole lot of sense too for what he's doing. And that's a really,
because that's something that people have already experienced. So we wanted to bring something new to it, and let everybody play with the gas and not just Caustic this time around. It's been a lot of fun to work on it. We've seen a lot of crazy things happen inside of there. The other piece of the puzzle there is, Caustic is a scientist, and we call him an evil scientist, but is he really? Maybe he's just more of a genius, right? And that's kind of like how we tried to play him up in here too, is that there's always something going on in the back and he's thinking about something. So what could he be doing with this gas? Well, maybe he's trying to learn something from it, or maybe make it better for future use. So we also have this idea of being trapped in the space. And this also plays a very integral part to how you're going to move through it and fight in it and get the goodies in it. Well, we've taken that loot and we put it inside of these traps. And those traps are what's the most fun about this space, because you want to get that stuff, but you also got to go through the toxins to get to it. And that's also where the button comes into play. You press the button, the toxins go away for a limited amount of time, and it gives you a little bit of breather to go in there and collect the stuff that you really want. The gold hop-ups, the gold backpacks, the guns, the armor, all that good stuff is in there. So essentially, there's two major spots to land in the front and the back. Both kind of have an equal opportunity to go in there and press a button. So you've got two buttons, one on each side. And you kind of always need to be watching the teams from the opposite side.
This idea for a long time, and it's a simple notion. What if you couldn't go exactly where you wanted to go exactly when you wanted to do it? Like, what if the games had their own plans? And so we decided to start crafting this narrative very early on, how Mad Maggie takes over the games and how she sabotages them. And her idea here is, let's make every part of this experience more difficult for the legends. So we express that in what we're calling ring flares in this Ring Theory takeover. And what those are basically little pockets of the ring that get dropped in the middle of the map and expand outwards in a variety of ways. So the cool thing about this takeover, it's not one and done. It's not going to be 2 weeks of exactly the same thing. It's actually an escalation, and there are 5 escalations. So there's a lot going on here, where the first escalation is just an intro. It's just getting you ready with just, okay, yeah, there's going to be just one ring flare each round. And as it gets, who knows what'll happen. But then as we move into the other escalations, there'll be massive single ring flares that will take up an entire POI or bigger, to make you think about those rotations differently. And then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th escalations, well, you're going to have to kind of experience how those will escalate over time. We're definitely, we've play tested it quite a bit, and it's a ton of fun. It's definitely hectic. It fits perfectly with the theme of mayhem. We really hope players will enjoy the experience of running through all of the escalations with us.
How will the escalations work? Is that something where it's like the first 3 days it's going to be at a certain level, and then over the course of 2 weeks, like the matches get more intense? Like how are we going to distribute that out?
That's right. And awesome to have her very well represented as the orchestrator of this takeover.
That's awesome. That's super fun. Something else we're introducing with this, which is good.
So the heat shield, like you said, is designed to sit sort of next to the mobile respawn beacon in terms of being a survival item. And I'll speak a little bit more about what that means later. But to get into how it actually works is when you loot the heat shield, you'll be able to throw it out. And if you're in the ring fury mode, to sort of combat some of that randomness. So it's a very exciting item, and I think I'm really excited to see what players do with it, because there's a lot of player expression that we're going to see out of this, a lot of creative things that they're going to do, a lot of cheeky plays that I can see coming out of this. And so to kind of get back into the survival item thing, one of the things that we're going to release with the heat shield is actually the survival slot. And how that works is in your inventory, we're actually making a new slot that's just for these survival items. So the mobile respawn beacon and the heat shield. So gone are the days of dropping heat shields for ammo or health items. Survival item, coordinate with their team. Oh, who's getting the MRB? Who's going to take some heat shields? How are we going to use our utility items to win the game? So I'm really excited to see how all of this interplays and how people combat the ring furies. It's going to be a really, really exciting event.
Yeah,
So it's really designed to be this kind of like early to mid-game bounce back mechanic. We don't want people throwing down a bunch of heat shields in the final ring, staying out there and trying to outlast opponents. So you're right, it's got this HP, so in the earlier rounds, it's going to not take very much damage. It'll last a while. But as these rounds increase, as the damage of the
pre-launch. So I've been waiting a long time for this cold steel. That's a very appropriate looking mean knife. I think to close us out here, we do have some patch notes info coming out with.
On the receiving end, this makes gas damage more predictable and less oppressive when calculating whether or not to push a caustic setup. And a bit of a side note that I want to bring up, I often see requests for a quality of life change. It's never super readable in the first place, so we're going to remove the dome fast heal altogether. Watson still finds success at high level play, and as far as competitive is concerned, I'm curious to see if we'll see more usage from her, given the caustic changes. But for all of us who are not competitive players, a reason her pick rate is low could be because she doesn't have much selfish power. So we're borrowing a little something from Octane, and Watson will now have passive shield regen. It'll be at a rate of 1 HP per second, which is half the rate of Octane's current health regen, but it will stack with her significant. For example, instead of something like an Arc Star dealing 200 damage to a wall, it will now inflict the standard 70. Stars and all MGs will now come with the 2x Bruiser. But it gets even better than that. For all gold weapons and all care package weapons, you can now swap out to any optic that's available for that gun, except for the Kraber, because if you could put like a 1x on a Kraber, that would be OP. So for your Prowler, your PK, any gold weapon, you can swap any other optic that would work for that weapon.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I got to give shout out to Devin YZ for implementing that change. That's an awesome change for sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Whoa.